Thirdly, where is Christ in the Lord of the Rings? There is no one complete, concrete Christ figure in the Lord of the Rings like Aslan in Narnia, which is, I think, Lewis's most remarkable achievement. I don't think any other figure in all of human literature has more successfully portrayed Christ as a literary character. You feel towards Aslan what Christ's contemporaries felt towards Christ, the same wonder. It's an amazing achievement. But we cannot expect parallels to the historical articles of the Creed in The Lord of the Rings, since it is not an allegory. Yet Christ is really present there, though invisibly. The most striking Christ symbol is the death and resurrection in three different ways of the three Christ figures of Gandalf, Frodo, and Aragorn. I will examine their death and resurrection later under the article of the resurrection of the body, but look at their functions. All three of them are sacrificial saviors of all of Middle-earth from the demonic sway of Sauron. They exemplify Old Testament messianic symbolism by performing the three functions of prophet, Gandalf, priest, Frodo, and king, Aragorn. These three functions correspond to the three powers of the human soul, as perceived in some form by nearly every psychologist from Plato to Freud. The mind, the passions, and the will, or the head, the heart, and the hands. Thus, many of our great works of literature have three protagonists: Ivan, Alyosha, and Dmitri Karamazov, Mr. Spock, Captain Kirk, and Bones McCoy. And even in the Gospels, we have John, the philosophical mystic, James, the practical moralist, and Peter, the leader and rock of the church. Clyde Kilby writes, Tolkien sent me a paper called Kingship, Priesthood, and Prophecy in the Lord of the Rings, written by a professor in New South Wales, Australia. The paper proposed that Tolkien's story was one of the most misunderstood works of modern fiction because its critics were so often unacquainted with the Bible. The writer insisted that the story is based on the manner of Christ's redemption of the world. Middle-earth is saved, he argued, through the priestly self-sacrifice of the hobbit Frodo, the lamb whose only real strength is his capacity to make an offering of himself. It is saved also by the wisdom of Gandalf, the major prophet figure, as well as the mastery of Aragorn, who begins despised and ends as king. Tolkien wrote me his own opinion. Quote, "This is true enough, except, of course, the impression given that I had any such schema in my conscious mind before the writing." The pervasive theme of divine providence in The Lord of the Rings, the fact that nothing is left to chance, is also Christocentric from the New Testament point of view, since Christ is the supreme example in all of history of divine providence. All of history is providential preparation for Christ. All time is fulfilled in the fullness of time, the moment eternity entered time, the incarnation. The whole world is Mary's larger womb, prepared for him by the Holy Spirit. And if there is one specific religious doctrine that is spectacularly present in The Lord of the Rings, it is divine providence. The events in the plot are no more explainable by chance or coincidence than design in the universe or the human body, though intelligent people still desperately try. And we do not notice this, and we find it so natural that we do not rear up in incredulity and protest. For deep down, everyone knows that their lives, too, have been providentially graced with perfect timings, last-minute escapes, and skin-of-the-teeth rescues. The most important providences in The Lord of the Rings surround the ring, its loss, its finding, and its destruction. Gandalf says to Frodo, "It was not Gollum, Frodo, but the ring itself that decided things. The ring left him. But there was more than one power at work. The ring was trying to get back to its master, but beyond that there was something else at work, beyond any design of the ringmaker. I can put it no plainer than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and not by its maker, in which case you also were meant to have it." And that may be an encouraging thought. In a providential universe, not one hair falls from our head without the will of the Father. All things mean, for they have an author. They are not just things and events, but words and signs. And therefore, history is a story, because it is his story. The author of this great poem, called The Lord of the Rings, does not believe, like a deconstructionist, that a poem should not mean but be. Instead, as a Christian, he knows the logos, the mind of the author, and knows that in the beginning,